Welcome one and all. We are Elena and Martin. We're the co-founders of Mighty Real, and we will be your hosts today. And we are very much looking forward to kicking off this year's To Be Honest conference. And yes.
We have a wonderful array of speakers for this kickoff session. Today, the welcome session is all about the future of academia, hands-on ideas, and what can we be done today. But before we really get into who is present with us and what they will all bring to the table, we'll hand over to Anne from the GSO, who is the overall host of this amazing conference. Anne, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks so much. Welcome, everyone. My name is Anne. I'm the director of the GSO. And we are really, truly stunned because more than 1,100 people have actually registered for this event. And we're very happy that all of you joined us today. Not 1,100, but we're getting there, I think. This is already the third TBH conference, and last year we were honest about inconvenient truths in academia. And this time around, we want to be a bit more positive, and we want to sketch out a vision for the future of academia, so that despite all the problems, we know why we are actually doing what we're all doing, right? And all of you are part of that future, and that is why the goal of all of the sessions today and also tomorrow is really to empower and to encourage you, because we all know the system has its flaws. We can't change it today, but what we can do is to help you gain agency and to navigate that system, and your life as well a little bit better. So please keep in mind for all of the conference, however you feel, you're not alone, even if you're confused and frustrated. There are a ton of role models out there who are able and willing to help. We see some of them today. Also remember that you're not at the mercy of a system. I think Leo once said that, but that you have ownership and choices. And also remember that you can make a difference when you are in a position to do so. And all of this is also part of our mission at GSO. And if you say GSO, I don't know who that is. We are an independent nonprofit, and we offer guidance, skill development, and opportunities for researchers just like you. So if you need career advice, you want to be part of our programs or need a contact, we are here. Check out our website and you will find all information there, or just get in touch with me or my colleagues, Kypra and Berthe, who are also here today. A few shout outs. We are able to offer you this conference completely free of charge because the Klaus Tschira Foundation shares our mission and funds the TBH. And a big thank you, of course, goes out to all of our speakers who take the time to be here. And some of them are actually alumni of our programs, as well as other funding programs of the Klaus Tschira Foundation. So this is why you see the Alumni Network Alumnode as a partner. And last shout out, please make use of the wonderful offer by our partner 21 Skills. They created a digital platform with courses that are really highly relevant for researchers. So if you want to dive deeper into a topic, you have free access to that platform for up to 2 weeks after the conference. Don't miss out on that. And one last remark, it's unfortunately impossible to address all the challenges and convey really all the advice in such a short period of time of like 2 days. So when the conference is over, do please remember to prioritize your career development. Talk to people, reach out to mentors, to peers, to us, be active, be proactive, set yourself up for those lucky coincidences. And with that, and without further ado, let's be honest, enjoy the sessions, and please share your experiences and insights so we can all learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne, for this wonderful welcome. I can only highlight that again. Couple ways how you can do this during this webinar already is like use the chat and share resources you bring to the table yourself in the chat. If it comes to your mind during the conversation we will have. Also, I see in the chat the request, maybe that someone from the GSO will honor to like put the links in the chat, so the GSO will answer and take care of all of that. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the chat function.
The Q&A.
The Q&A function. I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. So advice and resources in the chat, questions in the Q&A. You find this on the bottom. We will not be able to let any one of you speak during to time limits. So just bring your questions in written, and then we will take care of them as much as possible. If they are too specific, there is a chance to follow up one-on-one with the speakers of today. They are happy to provide their contact information, so you can reach out to them by email or LinkedIn. If it's too personal, maybe the GSO Career Advice can offer you support. And if it's too generic, well, let me Google that for you. Let's use the collective intelligence in the room to the best of our availability. And to do that, we have assembled a wonderful group of 5 amazing speakers that we will learn about more now.
Exactly. Without further ado, we want to jump right into it because we have 75 minutes or 68 if I look at the clock. And we have, as Elena already said, 5 amazing speakers assembled here. And we want to start with them kind of introducing themselves to you very briefly. They will tell you who they are, and they will also jump right into it and give you one point of advice, and right from the beginning. And so let's start. We're going to start with Sabine. And Sabine, please introduce yourself to the folks.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. And hello, everybody. My name is Sabine Becker. I'm a professor for inorganic chemistry in Kaiserslautern. And I also happen to be the vice president of the German Chemical Society. And my advice would be, we have all to address the issues of the system more honestly and more openly.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Sabine. Leo.
Hello, I'm Leo Kurian. I'm a faculty at the Goethe University Frankfurt. My advice would, or my suggestion would be, find your unique academic focus and trust in your strengths.
Thank you very much.
Leo, yes. And next would be Tracy.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. I'm Tracy Wietecha. I'm a postdoc at the Max Planck Institute for Sustainable Materials and also a lecturer at the Technical University of Berlin. And I am also the spokesperson of the Max Planck Postdoc Net. And as I've been saying all throughout this past year in my term, my number one thing would be to say, get a mentor to help advise you.
Thank you, Tracy.
And then Robert.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Robert Lepenies. I'm professor of pluralist and heterodox economics and also university president of Karlsruhe, which is a small German university in the south of Germany, the beautiful, prosperous south of Germany. And my one hand-on idea that I want to take people away is quite related to the last one. It's that you need to create your own advisory board, but it can be a secret advisory board. They don't even have to know they're on it.
Wow, we'll learn about that later a little bit more. Thank you, Robert. And last but not least, Deniz, welcome.
Hello, thanks again for having me. So I'm an international non-EU and mother postdoctoral researcher at the University of Freiburg. So I emphasize mother and female and non-international because my advice would be that we should value our unique authenticity that makes us us. And please don't forget to share, connect, and give away. So.
Thank you so much, Deniz.
Thank you all for introducing yourself and for bringing this like early on career advice right straight to the table. Feel free to come back to it anytime during this webinar. But next, what we will do is we will kindly ask you all to turn off your cameras. And for the audience, don't be surprised by that. They'll come back. They're not gone. Martin and I will make a few statements. And if the statement is true to some of the to the speakers here, only those who the statement is true to will turn on their camera. And then we have a little bit of a chat and continue from there. So
yeah, let's start with the first statement. Please turn on your camera if you are a postdoc. Fantastic. Tracy and Deniz, we already heard that. Maybe you could, again, briefly allude, how long have you been a postdoc? Because that's always a thing for postdocs, right?
Just speak.
Okay. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Right. Okay. Let's go by alphabet. Deniz.
Okay, so I graduated 21. That means that I'm since 3 years officially postdoctoral researcher. But given that within that period I became a mother, so it's like a 1 or 2 years that I was actively in the lab and collecting data, writing grants. And so this is how it's going now. I moved from Berlin to Freiburg as well. During the COVID times, this was quite challenging for me, knowing no one and leaving the family behind. But nevertheless, I'm pretty happy in South Germany.
And how do you? I have one follow-up question, quick. How do you balance, if I may ask, motherhood and being a postdoc? How does that work out for you?
Are we able to balance really? So firstly, I mean, I'm not able to balance, but it's like during this whole process, I learned how to say no, like to myself, to my inner self, to progress as well, but also to others, to students, to my PI, to my husband. So such that I can have at least mentally balance, and then which will then reflect to my physical well-being. But it's of course hard. It's super challenging. So during the winter times, the kids get sick, and then you need to take care of this. You know, it's like it's not easy. Let's phrase like that. But there's always support in certain ways. For instance, support from the university, such that they offered kindergarten places for childcare. So, or like my husband, like, of course, it's a basic support, but that means a lot. I'm not able to think of having these without having these supports. How I would achieve what I have achieved until so far.
So the importance of support structures, particularly if you have like multiple roles at your hand.
Of course, your partner, your like environment, your family. So now I'm in the South Germany, and my family is in Turkey. Of course, they are not able to support me while my kids are sick. So we have a distance. But on the other hand, we have a childcare here in Germany that is like a supporting I was able to find, for instance, childcare service that take care of my kid from 8 o'clock until 6 if I want. So
right,
fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Deniz. And maybe now, Tracy, for how long have you been a postdoc? And there already have been a couple of chat questions in the Q&A that also specifically go towards your case. But first, maybe how long have you been a postdoc?
Yeah, I've been a postdoc now for about 3.5 years. I completed my doctorate at the University of Munich. And then after that, I was a fellow at the Leopoldina in Halle. And then I had a postdoctoral fellowship for a couple of years at the Max Planck Institute for History of Science in Berlin. And at the moment, I'm in 2 places at once. I'm in Düsseldorf and Berlin at the moment.
Yes.
All right. And you mentioned as your #1 tip that you have also been saying a lot during your current position as Max Planck postdoc representative is that get yourself a mentor. There have already been 2 questions. What's your recommendation? How do you get a mentor, particularly if there's no network for postdocs at the university? And how to handle that if your professor finds out that you have a different mentor than them? Is that a problem?
That's a great question. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, first thing I want to say is from my standpoint and what we've been doing in PostDocNet this past year is really saying mentorship is not supervision. So having a mentor is not the same as having a supervisor or a director over you. And a mentor can be there to help for your personal development and career in a more general sense than just overseeing a particular kind of project or particular aspects of your research. What we have been advocating for this past year within PostDocNet is actually having a structured mentorship program and having a database so that postdocs who come in, particularly international postdocs, could have access to a database and be able to be matched with potential people for mentorship. But even if you don't have this kind of structured program in place at your university or research institution, you can reach out on your own to people. And this could be people within, a particular network. You can ask, your own professors or supervisors that you work with if they might recommend someone, or perhaps you've been at a conference and you saw someone present and you had a wonderful conversation with them and think that maybe this could be someone who could actually give me some kind of career advice. These were things that I've done personally for myself, and I've done them in different roles. So I've done them for myself, for my own research. One of the ways I did this for my own research career path was within my research group. My research group leader had this external advisory board for our research group. And so those were some people that I could actually contact, and I made like initial contact, like, you know, let's have this kind of maybe more informal conversation. And when that went really well, I could ask them in a more kind of formal sense to advise me or to mentor me. I also did this in my role as spokesperson. So when I became spokesperson of Postdoc.net, which is a one-year term, I had never done this before, and I found myself into, you know, thrust into situations where I'm in these meetings with important stakeholders, and I had never done these things before. And so I actually found someone who had experience and knew the society, but was no longer in kind of any active position of power. And so I could actually learn the ins and outs of how a research institution works, and the most effective way to communicate and to advocate.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. Extremely helpful. So not being afraid of reaching out to people strategically, actively, also to people, like to ask for informal conversations, maybe also to people that are no longer having any stakes in the game, etc. Robert, could you please turn on your camera, because you said something in the opening statement also along the lines of mentorship, in terms of like, hey, I think it's important, or it worked for you well, to find mentors without them even knowing. Maybe you could explain that a little bit more.
Sure, I'm happy to. Well, maybe this is some type of advice that might help people who are a little bit afraid of asking people for being their formal mentor, or just advice given in a formal way, and just get into a practice of asking for help, asking for advice, asking for input. And so collecting this advice on a more regular basis, this is what I would call your secret advisory board.
Wonderful, great. Thank you all for answering here. We could talk longer, but the idea of this welcome session is to get as many impulses in a short time as possible. So let's turn off your cameras again. And please turn on your camera if you are a professor. So now we have 3 people here in the room. Let's start with you, Sabine. You made it. Congratulations. All of you are a professor. Isn't that the dream career of why we enter academia in the first place? Now it's all research and champagne, right? Or is your real life any different from that?
Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, where in academia are you? Because I really want to have this life full of champagne and everything is fine. So I think it is your dream if you make it being your dream. So when I started in academia, when I started off with a PhD student, I actually never had the thought that I want to be a professor. I had a lot of people who advised me. I had mentors. I had that luck. And I consider this as really, really very important. And so I think a very important task of me now, being a professor, is giving that back and trying to be a mentor and helping other people. But of course, it's not champagne each day. I mean, you are challenged each day with new things you might not even have thought of. But yeah, it really depends on what you make out of it, if it becomes your dream. So you have to be very flexible.
Can you specify the things that you faced that you never dreamed about a little bit?
You mean in a good way, I guess?
In both ways. Paint a realistic picture. What is, like, I mean, your day, maybe you can also paint,
I think one thing I never thought about being in this job is that you are faced, or that you are challenged with that much of administration. So it is an incredible amount of work you have to put into administration, into committee work. And I completely underestimated, being a woman, that you are in so many committees because you have to fill the women's quota. And so this is one point. But then on the bright side, I kind of underestimated how much you can get back from people when you are mentoring them and when you are teaching them what really great of fun and great work it can be working together with people and being a part of their development.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Leo, how is it for you? Like, what surprised you the most when you became a professor? And maybe you can also speak to that experience from being an international outside of the EU yourself, right?
For me, in line with what Sabine said, an aspect that I maybe underestimated was the amount of administrative work and nuances. But I'm very thankful that I have help in this regard. So colleagues has been very, very helpful in this and helping to navigate the system a bit. What is also the question?
Yeah. And then anything else that surprised you when you became a professor, where you're like, oh, I didn't think of it being so much? Is it administrative work? Maybe also something. What's important about you for being in this position when you like, what's also the beauty of being a professor, being able to do that work?
I wouldn't call it a beauty, but I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to do what I'm doing in a country that I was not born. More than that, I'm stuck.
That is fine. I find being humble is, I would love if every professor would be that humble. I think that would serve the future of academia too. No, from our pre-conversation, we talked a little bit also about like the possibility of shaping futures, not only yours, but also the ones of others. Like,
oh, you mean as part of the work? Yes, there's two things that I really appreciate of having this position. Thankfully, is the opportunity to have a longer term vision, which was difficult before, and not even knowing where you would end up. And the second part is actually to see the people that grow up in the lab, and then having the opportunity to provide, like, we are not creating them, right? We are just providing the platform and opportunity for them to develop, and that, and then seeing the opportunities being taken and actually being them and getting the most out of it. That's actually worth it, in my opinion, and then beautiful. That is worth all the challenges that the current academy faces. I know that it's not an easy job to get into, but I kind of knew what we signed up for, no? So thanks for that.
No, thank you. And Robert, maybe just in one sentence, as a president, how much of your daily life is actually being a professor, teaching, researching?
180% probably. You see, I don't have a maths background. No, yeah, as a professor, but I think also as generally, once you enter the labor market or work in any organization, you will find that also with increasing age, you will have multiple hats, whether that's professional or personal hats. So I'm also dad of 3, right? I'm professor and a university president, and then part of all this voluntary engagement that's being done. So it's not necessarily a professorial thing. It's also kind of a career stage thing that you just add hats.
And one quick follow-up from the Q&A section here. How would you answer the question, does one really need to be proficient in German, in the language, to become a professor in Germany?
I'm
Any
not.
one of you or all? You're not, Leo, you said?
No, no.
How do you make it work for you?
Well, I'm not German, right? So I built my group 10 years ago in Cologne. And at that time, I had to kind of focus on what do I want to make out of this, and where do I want to focus on? It was as a foreigner who don't speak German, it was choice of I can learn German and try to teach in German versus build an academic lab where I would like to have the research in the direction and at the level that I would like to do. I chose for the latter. It was quite a lot of risk. It's much easier if you learn German and then teach in German. I was lucky that there was opportunity to teach in English in the natural science faculty, so that helped. But it is not impossible. So however, I would advise to learn German and then contribute to teaching in German. It is also changing. Unless you are part of the medical faculty, there are opportunities to teach in English, and most of the master programs in both Cologne and in Frankfurt is in English in the natural science faculty. So I think it's good to have a clarity of what do you want to do and how would you like to build your career, possibly as early as possible. That might help. That would help, not sure what might.
And Robert, you could also shed the light on the private universities, right? Because I mean, it says Karlsruhe International University, right? And so I mean, English is kind of that's the spoken language, or how would you say that?
Yeah, exactly. We only have English language programs in Bachelor and Master, and we recently hired a professor that she only speaks in English and Turkish. So also there was a question in the chat about social sciences. It really depends. There's so many different types of institutions, universities of applied sciences, universities, private, non-profit. There's really a niche, even if you don't speak German perfectly yet. There's a niche for you.
So find your niche and figure out your way. Wonderful. Please turn off your cameras again, all three of you. And we have one more question, and that is, please
turn on your camera if you are currently holding an elected leadership position. Wonderful.
What are you elected as? Just in one sentence. Sabine.
Okay,
Tracy, you're muted, and you're going to be next.
Okay, it's a vice president of the German Chemical Society.
Tracy?
Spokesperson of a postdoc network.
And Robert?
President.
President of the world.
And no. And yeah, the question to you is, I mean, what are the costs and what are the benefits of holding that leadership position that you all are elected to? Maybe we start with Tracy again.
Yeah, thanks. It's very time consuming is one negative, especially as spokesperson, where at the end of the day, I'm the one who's responsible for my entire network. Or if something goes wrong, I'm the one who gets the telephone call at the end of the day. But on the other hand, it is such an amazing opportunity. Like, I have grown so much in the past year. And being able to handle conflicts, being in meetings with stakeholders. And these were just skills and were also just personal development, also personally for myself, I feel, as a person, that will just, I think, carry me into whatever position or role I go into next.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Sabine, how is that for you?
Yeah, it's kind of similar. So I think it is I would say the only negative thing in parentheses is that it is time consuming and it's challenging sometimes to organize it. But on the other side, it's completely worth it because it's a personal enrichment for you and you're meeting so many wonderful people who are experienced in their field. And so you can always learn something from them. And so you increase your network. So it's always very wonderful meeting these people. And then in addition, you do have the opportunity to shape something, to shape a little bit the future, and which I'm really very thankful for, that people are trusting me that much that I can do that. And so there's a lot on which you can grow on and which you can take positive energy from. And so it's totally worth putting the time into it, I think.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Robert?
Yeah, it's a different type of skill set that's needed for sure, that you're usually not prepared for in academia. A lot is related to also how people see you differently once you have a role, and to navigate that, and just skills like, resilience and trying to motivate teams. And then, but it can be such an incredible joy when you have a team working alongside you to jointly achieve things. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I can highly recommend that.
Great. It sounds like you gain a lot of skill set that might be helpful for any type of future career position you will hold, right? On top of being a researcher or yourself. We have one last question in the segment before we move on, but I want to quickly address one thing. We see some of you still raising your hands to ask questions verbally. Unfortunately, that's not working. We don't have the time to do that. So if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A. And as you can see, when you have a look at it, we monitor it. Some of the speakers monitor it, and the GSO monitors and answers it. Try to put questions there that serve the whole community. And if it's very individual, there's other ways to post these questions. Otherwise, keep sharing resources and experiences in the chat. Martin, what's our last prompt? And please turn off your camera one last time, all of you.
Yes, the last prompt would be, please turn on your camera if you have had experiences in other academic systems, meaning not in the German academic system, but in other academic systems. Wonderful. Deniz, maybe you could elaborate a little bit about your experiences that you had abroad. What was it like? What are the pros? What are the cons? Maybe so all of you had international experiences, but maybe let's hear it of Deniz first.
I guess like the key fact that I come from like Turkey, that like I studied in Turkey actually, and then meanwhile studying I was in UK for like having a 6 months being a research assistant, and then I was also in Netherlands able to see like a kind of a lab rotation and able to see how the lab system works there. And being in Germany and affiliated Max Planck during my PhD versus state universities as a postdoctoral researcher, I'm realizing that within even in the same country, we have so much differences. Like Robert underlined that like we had many different universities. So we have also institutions like Max Planck, where there is like almost amazing opportunities for international students and researchers and PhDs and professors, while state level is a bit different. So, and then if you compare the system with US or where you come from, or like Netherlands, UK, this is another level. So there's a really pros and cons in terms of different countries and institutions and systems. So.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Deniz. And Tracy, when we talked, you told us that you actually did turn down a tenure track position in the States, in the United States, to come back to Germany. How did that happen?
Yeah, I'm the crazy person. Yeah, as I'm American, so the US system was my original framework of reference. And I've been here in Germany now for 10 years. And about a year and a half ago, when I was on the job market and applying for whatever I possibly could, I did get a tenure track offer in the United States at a university. And I would have said if I had not come to Germany, that probably would have been my dream job. But then I came to Germany and saw other things. But also my life changed personally. So it wasn't just about an academic career path for me at that point. But I also had to make personal decisions. And when I had a personal life here in Germany and whether or not I could leave that behind or not, which in the end I decided not to, and to stay in Germany, even though it was much, riskier to stay here and not having a permanent position or a tenure track thing here in Germany.
Thank you for sharing that. And that sounds a lot like what Leo gave out as his number one tip, like stay true to yourself. So making a hard decision as that one allowed, like you made a decision for something and against something else. But Leo, you also had experience in the US. What's the one thing that you think Germany should have more of from your experience in the US, the German system?
Fearless science.
Say it again, please.
Fearless science.
Fearless science. What do you mean by that?
Okay, I was a a long time ago, 15 years ago. I was a postdoc at the Salk Institute in San Diego, and a year in UCSD. Maybe I was spoiled there, but I felt the science there was a bit more enthusiastic and a bit more fearless, if you put it. What I want to say is that here in German academic system, I think it's a bit of the attitude in general in Germany that we like to be safe. We like to keep things as we planned. Sometimes in science you have to be a bit more adventurous and promote. While we say we want to do high risk, high reward science, more often than not, it's a bit more safer. So I do miss that a little bit.
You get a lot of credit for these comments by looking at the smileys and seeing the nods of the others. Yeah, keep talking.
So I can keep talking now. I think it's good to mix it a bit, but that can make you unique in the academic market. No? So you can just use it as a positive as well, depending on the training. So now I will shut up.
And yet there was something that brought you back to Germany. What was that?
A better life, work-life balance a bit, and the safety in the academic job. No, so in US, it can go up quite quick, and I felt it could go down as well quite quick. And I did my PhD in Cologne in Germany, so I liked the time there. So I got an opportunity. I was a bit lucky in that sense that I got the opportunity to come back, and then I took that opportunity and tried to build my career here.
Thank you. And as getting lucky, what the GSO always says is that, like, set yourself up for lucky coincidences. So the luck is not only like you're sitting there waiting to be lucky. And I think all of the speakers have already alluded to that. You all play an active role in being lucky. You set yourself up. So you need to become active, proactive to kind of push things.
Yeah, it was a grant that I applied that allowed me to get back.
So you were not only lucky, you applied for a grant. So yeah, thank you.
Maybe proactively setting yourself up for coincidences, for lucky coincidences. I'm sure Sabine and Robert, you would have wonderful things to say, but we will move on and figure out another way. If it's burning, you find a way to say them in the remaining time. For now, please all, if you're a speaker, have a piece of paper at hand or a couple pieces of paper and a Sharpie at hand. They knew about this beforehand. What's going to happen now is that Martin and I will say a word, and we want you to write down the one thing or the 1, 2, 3 words, right, that pop into your head instantaneously when you hear this word. The first word is system. What's the one thing you wish you would have known earlier about the German academic system? One, and then write it. When you're done, hold on for a second. And we tell you when to pop it up. What is the one thing you wish you would have known earlier about the German academic system? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Okay. Okay. Robert, great. Okay. On the count of 3, please hold it to the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I keep it up there for a second. Martin's going to just note this down. Okay. So, Sabine, level of complexity. What would have been different if you would have known that before?
I think I would have been more prepared. And so it took a long time for me to see through all of the levels of committees and of everything, how it works together. And so if I had known about that earlier, it would have saved me a lot of time. And I still have the feeling, even after being like 7.5 years in the job, that I still haven't understood the whole complexity of it. I probably never will. I'm not quite sure if there's anybody who will.
Okay,
it's probably like science. It's a endless endeavor.
Yeah, the more you know, the more questions you have. Absolutely.
There's another bureaucracy door. Oh my God. Okay.
What's your hack to beat the system, Sabine?
Don't try to beat it. Work with it. Find a workaround and prioritize and get help if you need it. But just work with it. Don't work against it.
Work with it. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. You can see that Leo and Deniz, they're like, yes. Deniz, you wrote German. Can you allude to that? We're talking about systems.
So this was also appeared in the chats a lot of times whether German is needed. It definitely depends on where you are first and which field you are. So I'm in the field between STEM, MINT, and humanity. I do cognitive neuroscience that is affiliated most of it psychology, where 95% of the professors are coming from Germany, or if it's international, that means that Switzerland. So they speak German as well. So, yeah, so that's why the first thing that I realized after Max Planck, where everyone, even the secretary level, was able to speak English, is German language that I needed to face. So from having a contract level to getting a visa, you know, it's like and then there's this like a teaching, if there's like if you don't have international teaching opportunities, it's another challenge that you are affiliated with university and you have to teach. And then all the administration work and other stuff. And if you want to even go further and be in the commissions, they are all in German. So actually what Sabine recommended, it's instead of like a neglecting and I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to speak at it. Now I'm almost in almost all commissions trying to be active, even though I'm silent there. So it's basically it's boosting my CV firstly, but it's also that I'm realizing that maybe it's never late, you know. I did this during my postdoc, and it's never too late to learn German or to try to be active in German language. And I recently did a interview in German for a Stiftung, for a foundation where they give me money, like they granted money. And this interview was also held in German language, where I needed to talk / solve problems in German academic environment, which was extremely challenging. So to answer and reply, because you are like trying to beat a person who is a native in German to get the funding. So, and it's challenging, of course, but without trying it, without applying this grant in German language, writing 40 pages of German draft, I was not able to get the grant. So it's like, this is what I have realized, knowing the system, of course, but depending on where you are. Again, I'm emphasizing, if you are maybe in technical faculties in Berlin, it's maybe completely different. I'm talking now a bit like coming like humanity, psychology, and a bit mixture of neuroscience field.
Great.
And in a small city, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Putting yourself out there and daring, even if you're not, if you don't feel like you have the full expertise yet, and then learn with the system. That's what it sounds to me like.
Yeah, amazing attitude.
Yes,
Congratulations.
absolutely. Yeah.
And maybe Robert, now I think you wrote down a discipline. Is that correct?
Yeah, I only encountered the German system after studying abroad for a long time in the UK, US, and Italy, and then yeah, it seemed to me very disciplined and very serious. So why not be a little bit more undisciplined and joyful? But maybe
More
that's a
joy.
stereotype, but I dare to prove me wrong, please.
And how would that help you? Like, how would it have served you? Would have known that more before?
Maybe make less or fewer inappropriate jokes in serious committee settings. I don't know.
What devil's advocate's question? Would that be following to be true to yourself? If I may quote Leo again.
No, precisely. I think authenticity is a really good North Star here.
Thank you very
Maybe
much.
along the lines of discipline, Leo, you wrote orthodox when we talked about systems. So what does that mean?
So when I was a PhD student, you get to know the German academic system a different layer than when you start your career as a group. I started as a group leader, and that I was not aware of the nuances of the system and how strict certain requirements and career progressions are. That could be communicated at least better. No? So for example, in US, when you start your group as an assistant professor, which is theoretically equal to a group leader position in Germany, but academically it is not. So these are aspects that I learned the hard way when in the interview stage, and then after getting the job, even after a few years, because when you get hired, of course, the institutions or the universities tell you it's essentially an assistant professor level, but essentially carries a lot of weight there. So some of these very German-specific aspects of the academic hierarchies, which are actually very much to be considered when you try to build your academic career, those things could be learned better and one should keep in mind of this. I hope that nowadays there is better education for the foreigners, because Germans know about it, so you don't need an education for it. When you come from outside, you only learn from what you've been told. No, I would stop there so that I don't take too much of my time.
No, thank you.
Very considerate. Also, what Sabine said, that don't work against the system, kind of work with it. But in order to do so, you need to know the system, the hierarchies, how to navigate through that. And last but not least,
yes, Tracy, you said one thing you would have liked to know about the German academic system is why. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, but I think my answer will echo the others' answers, what Sabine and Leo said, because I'm from the United States, and so you come knowing your own academic system from your own country. And when I came here as a doctorate student, you encounter parts of the system and it just doesn't make sense to you. And like all the documentation and all this like strenuous things, like I remember, because in the United States, at least, never have to bring your actual diploma. You bring a transcript of your grades. And I remember when I came and they're like, we need your diploma. And my diploma was not like a sheet of, A4 paper. It's like this huge thing. And I had to get it shipped from the United States, and I had to come to the office like, here's my diploma. But I mean, so you just encounter parts of the system, and you don't understand it. And it took years. I mean, for me, and then these parts start fitting in, and so for me, I think at your initial response is like resistance to the system, because you just don't understand it. But then it starts to make sense, and you start saying, okay, people work differently and people think differently in different areas, and you start seeing benefits and that you wouldn't have seen before.
No, it's very kind of you that you say it makes sense. Some of the thing, I mean,
some of it.
Diploma story, maybe not so much. That's just the love of Germany for the analog world, but sure.
Great. Let's move on to the next prompt, and that is visibility. On a scale of 1 to 10, how visible do you think you are as a researcher?
And 1 means you're kind of visible to your pocket of a scientific community, right? To the people that read your research papers. And 10 is like, wow, you're super visible. Your visibility reaches
everyone in Germany knows you.
Oh my God. Far beyond, at least far beyond your scientific community. So we're talking about visibility. Yeah, wait, Leo. Yeah, okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, put it up if you have it. I'm sorry, we didn't wait for you all.
Oh my God.
Okay, so 5, 6, 7, and 10. Okay, great. Thank you. Robert, 10 on a TikTok. So what does that mean?
Yeah, I enjoy being on social media, so I'm on TikTok as well. That helps with visibility, but it also shows how many people of you are actually on social media when they are supposed to be studying or doing research. Everyone's there.
And you're just there while you're supposed to be a president. No, I'm kidding. No, but how is that part of how does it serve you in your current role to be there and to do what you're doing?
Yeah, the serious answer is just being a scientist in public while wearing many hats, I think is a good recommendation. So if it means I don't have time to do research because I have to watch my kids today, that's also being a scientist in public. And I wish more people would be doing that. So it's not just, oh, here's my latest amazing grand win publication, whatever, and not showing any of the steps that led to it. I'd love if more people are scientists in public or scientists in progress in public. And that's why I say, don't be afraid of TikTok.
Wow, strong statement, kind of a wholesome view on the people, like a humanizing way. And it's not only the successes and the impact factor and whatever. Thank you. And we had a 7 of Leo. What are you doing to become that visible? Why is visibility for you as a researcher important?
As an outsider of the system, I use mostly Twitter and Blue Sky and LinkedIn to have a platform for voice, because sometimes when you face challenges, of course, I'm sure that every one of you can relate with it. There are sometimes you get in these dark corners where you have to fight against yourself, and sometimes the environment to get out of the corner, and those times it helps to find like-minded people, not in a negative sense. Sometimes you also need to whine about it, but to find help, right? So that then sometimes that help might not be local, so, or even your mentors might not be available, so you cannot just unload everything onto your mentor, right? So that helps. And also to make sure that you are being heard. So these are two things. These are the, like, career-wise I use it for, and academically I use it to promote my science, and also just to enjoy science.
Sabine, Tracy, and Deniz, in one sentence, what do you do for your visibility as a researcher? Tracy.
I have to speak in more than one sentence, but I try to keep it very, very short.
Make a long sentence.
German one.
Just two quick points. One is, so one really has to do with networking and getting involved in other kinds of things, even outside your research. So being like in postdoc.net increased my visibility as well, which really helped. And secondly, trying to reach a stage of more independence as a postdoc. So I run actually my own working group and have invited scholars in my field to come to that working group, and that also helped increase my visibility.
Thank you very much. Deniz.
It's actually similar. When I rate it as a 5, maybe I'm not known as a really like a great scientific researcher, but I'm trying to be active in, for instance, Twitter now, a bit switched to other social media platforms like Blue Sky. But for instance, if I post like a job openings for a PhD position, I'm not only actively trying to promote in like a social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, but also, for instance, I recently sent 10 emails to different neuroscience master degree schools such that my name is there and I'm announcing a job. Please distribute to your students. Again, it's about networking and not afraid of connecting people, even though they may not return and they may not forward your job postings. So this is what I'm trying to do as well. Also be active in the conferences and not only going conferences or but doing conferences or like inviting speakers and trying to get these networks, and which will in the end allow you to boost your name as well at certain level. Also, I told you once that I'm also applying grants also for networking. So it's really it's crucial that maybe from my field, they may not know me, but at least from 3 different funding agencies, going their meetings and enjoying some drinks with them, etc., which allow also our names to be visible, I think.
Wow, fantastic.
Applying for grants for the networking, I think that's a really interesting take on even if it doesn't work, you get something out of it, your name is out there.
And being very proactive when you have a job opening to fill, right? Is not only posting it on, let's say, LinkedIn or so, but really approaching certain graduate schools or master programs. Very proactive. Thank you.
Sabine, what's your one sentence about visibility?
Well, I would totally agree with Tracy and Deniz. The most important thing is actually the dinner where you can talk directly to people. But one comment to the question, I find it very difficult to answer it because you asked the visibility of a researcher. And so that's why I rated a 5. But as a person, I would rate a higher number because I often find that people do recognize me, but they see different things in me. There are some who see the researcher in me, but then there are some who see the person who talks about equality or whatever in science. And then there are some who obviously see the vice president of the GDCH in me. And so all in all, it's very difficult to find your role. And so it's hard to really give you a specific number. And especially as a woman, sometimes I feel that people see me more in other jobs than as a researcher. So it's hard to rate that. And my advice would be know that this could happen. And so try to increase your visibility. If you're sitting together with people and they are just talking about you gave a great talk about equality or whatever there, then try to go back to research and show that you are a researcher as well.
So you like be clear about how you want to be seen, and then bring that into the conversation.
Yes, so be authentic, be honest to yourself, but really tell the others what you are, because there are many people who just overlook who you are, that you are a researcher as well, and not only a women's quota or whatever. And so be strong and go out and tell that.
Great. Thank you all. We have one last prompt for this segment, and that is isms.
Meaning, we would like to know of all of you, which forms of isms have you encountered during your career in the German academic system?
Write them on a piece of paper.
And by isms,
it could be, well, I don't want to prompt you.
Yeah.
Any English word that ends with ism is an ism. So just think of anything that might have happened to you or not. You know, it's not, nothing is right or wrong.
that you have encountered.
That you have encountered, and then give me a thumbs up if you're done. Tracy and Robert, do you still need a moment? Okay, done. Tracy? Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. One
Keep it up
second.
there. Please keep it up there, even though it is. We got nepotism for Leo, racism, classism, genderism, activism. And what's the last one, Tracy?
Academism. I don't know. I'm creating my own words.
Hey.
What is the middle one? Activism? No.
Activism.
Activism. Okay. Robert, classism. What does that mean? How did that come across your way?
Yeah, no, it doesn't come across me. I'm very, very privileged, but I think it's one defining feature of the German academic system as a lack of social mobility. So it had to be mentioned. Also, ageism was just mentioned in the comments, which I think is, especially with the Wissenschaftszeitvertraggesetz, that's a funny word even internationals have to know and be able to spell out, two defining features of the system.
So thank you for alluding to that, because there is a couple of highly voted questions exactly along those lines. Would you say that the German academic system to some extent is ageist against older, long-term serving postdocs, how to say so, that are trying to break into it?
Leo, you're like heavily nodding, or Robert, both of you?
Yes.
You just
anything you see that could be done about it?
Hands-on ideas?
No, but no, seriously.
Yeah.
As a president, you have some agency. So as a president, what is in your level of agency that you can do about issues as such?
Yeah, of course. But I'm also the president of a private non-profit University of Applied Sciences, so which is very unlike the majority of institutions in the system, in that we have like a focus on, excellent teaching above all else, and then of course excellent research and so on. But also the type of employment contracts that exist in universities of applied sciences are just like different to other places, and then private institutions it's even more different. So I'm kind of representing a niche here, I think. So maybe I'll let the others speak.
Leo, do you want to comment to that?
What was the comment?
The comment was about ageism and the German academic system being a little ageist.
Yeah, I will be brief, so I don't want to take too much time. Yes, I agree with this. As was mentioned as well, that lateral mobility is difficult because you only have one path in academic career, so you have to. It's kind of like when you play a game. You reach certain points, and then you get to the next level, and you cannot stay in the level that maybe you would want to be, because sometimes many people want to be an independent researcher, but not to get into all this professor and the next stages, and that makes it difficult. So there's only one way to go in the academic system, and if flexibility could be should be there, but it is that all of us has to work towards it. But I don't have a solution for that at the moment.
Of course, it's a big, complex problem. Speaking about complexity again. Yeah.
Still, like putting it out there is maybe the first step to make it visible as a topic. Deniz, you wrote racism on your piece of paper. How have you dealt with that?
It's firstly challenging, so I don't want to claim anything. That's why I had a question mark and star. But it's of course challenging as a foreigner coming from a Middle Eastern country and maybe having a dialect in German and try to deal with a white 60-year-old man from a certain region of Germany. So, and so I was naive. Let's phrase like that. So I was naive in a way that I didn't complain. I didn't do anything, you know. So going back to these times, I mean, it's hard. So it's like but of course there are some opportunities that you can go. For instance, at Max Planck, you have always an ombudsman that you can go and complain. It was not relating Max Planck actually, but it's like or at the universities, I'm sure that there's an international office and you can make a complaint. But the problem is you feel you feel the racism on your either nationality or your background. Oh, you little girl, why you are in Germany after being in Turkey and UK? You know, you feel that like the question why these are asking you, and you feel in the conversation and you cannot just prove. And if you go somewhere, it's also hard to prove these stuff that is due to racism. So it's of course challenging in certain level, but like a knowing language and replying then sometimes face to face, like, no, what do you mean? Like, let's go police and talk, you know. Sometimes you need to be direct and strong and like a tough, you know, I'm not a little girl that you talk. I'm not like I might be from Middle East, but no, this is like sometimes not like a hierarchy is helping you, but you have to be brave to reply them. So this is how I should phrase actually.
So you're taking a stance. You're going from, I don't know, describing yourself naive to being, strong.
Yes.
Saying
Standing
clear
up
no.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, you learn by time actually, and you learn with experiences.
Thank
Unfortunately.
you.
So, but it's again highlighting, I don't claim anything like about racism and Germany. So it's like but it's about my personal experience that I lived due to my background, basically.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Leo, you were nodding a lot. Do you have similar experiences, or is this?
First of all, Deniz, I have a lot of respect for you for speaking out on this. Really, it's not easy. Well, our system is learning. No? So I do think that while Germany is very open in having researchers until PhD or a maximum postdoc, then to break out from there, the system does not, in some way, is not made for it, for us foreigners, or don't expect us to be there. So the older crowd are not, let's say, I don't think it's a hard discussion there. Huh? So the system is not made for it in some way. So when you try to be in certain stages where in some way people like you are not around, you in line with what Sabine said and also Deniz said, like you get treated as if, oh, this cute brown boy, how did you get here, you know? And so it's something that I came to peace with it. It's not always like that. Huh? So I decided, okay, I don't have a family, so I'm not going to leave, and I will try to keep fighting. And luckily, I could make it. But there are systems in place. There are platforms that you can get help from. It is important to stand up. No, it's not a fight, but actually showing that we are here to actually contribute to the system and not to fight against or break anything here. No, it's based on quality, and that should be about quality and not about where you come from or what is your pedigree. So pedigree also, that's what I would just finish the nepotism part. I put it as well. So that's what I meant in Germany. There's a bias towards if you have made your career all the way in Germany, or if you have a support system, as one would put it, where you belong to a certain academic career path, or your mentor who then makes a phone call that would give you an interview. That this I was not used to. So, but that's something to be aware of when you're international research. So you can still build your career, but be aware of it so that you have to bring certain other things to the table to get the visibility and also get an interview call.
Thank you.
That was also along the lines of nepotism. Did I get that right?
Yes, yes. And thank you for like highlighting that. It sounds to me that resilience is a really important quality in research that you have to bring in general as a researcher, but maybe unfortunately sometimes more if you're not having grown through the system.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing and for daring to be courageous about it.
Very quickly, Sabine, you talked about sexism. Maybe you can mention,
Yeah, I think this is something which unfortunately I met quite often in the system, but I want to say not everybody is like this. So luckily the majority is completely fine and will support you. But you know, there are always some people who spoil it. And I mean, one literally told me that I do have the issue that I only have 2 X chromosomes so that I can't do research. And I mean, this is quite obvious sexism. And the question is, how do you deal with it? And so I'm completely with Deniz. You have to fight. So you can't be the little girl. But I think it is so unfair that they put this fight onto you, because this should not be necessary. And I just read the comment somewhere that somebody has a very powerful supervisor and feels helpless. And so I'm really sorry for that. I mean, this is what I hear so often in the system. And what I really can say is try to talk to people who you trust, because sometimes you are still depending. It is a very difficult situation. And so if you, for some reason, cannot talk out loud yourself, find somebody who is in position, who can do that, who can trust, or who trusts you. And I think it is very important there that you're having a network. It's not only that you can speak openly, but it's more important for yourself, because you are sometimes in a constant fight, and it eats up energy. It eats up a lot of energy. And this should not be the case. And it's unfair that some people do have to fight against all of these isms again, in addition. And it's kind of a trap sometimes, because then you come into a vicious circle. And so I think it is very important that you talk honestly and openly about that. That is why I said it in the beginning. We really have to talk openly that there are issues and to make it public. And so I would totally respect Leo and Deniz, because I do know it's so hard talking about it, because which is the trap of the thing, is that you think it is your fault that people address you like that.
Yeah.
But it's very important for everybody who has to face whatever kind of ism, that the first thing you think, this is not okay. It's not because of me. It's because of the other people telling you that. Yes. And then you have to network and find people who trust you, who support you, and who say it's not okay, in a position they can really handle it and are not depending anymore.
Thank you very much, Sabine.
Also for this clear call to action, and the three of you just, it became so clear. You all felt belittled, right, through racism or sexism, and so it says a lot more about the person that is doing it to you, right? This belittling and trying to elevate them, but yeah.
Then so, about you, and yes. Although it shouldn't be the case that you're responsible of handling it, you still have agency to do that, and then reaching out for each other. Tracy, you wrote the word activism on your piece of paper. I want to take out this one.
There's a positive.
Yes, to end on a high note. No, I'm kidding. All of these are just like breaking up conversations, right? We could talk about all of these isms a lot more, but Tracy, what do you mean by two sentences maybe regarding the topic? Yes, what do you mean by activism when you think of the German system?
Well, I want to say that we're not passive agents of all these things that happen to us. I mean, we could go on, and there are other aspects too that I've encountered. Also trying to be an international person, but yet you've been in Germany 10 years, and all of the things that come along with this, with racism, with sexism. But I think like advocacy is so important, and that you can advocate for yourself, and you can do this in a number of ways. You can do this individually, but also being like connecting yourself to a network of other people. If you're a postdoc, get involved with another postdoc networks around you, because there's so much strength in number and power, and also realizing that you're not alone. I mean, especially as someone, I've so often felt so alone and so isolated during so many of my years here in Germany, and realizing that there are other people who are actually experiencing the same kind of things, and people that you can talk to. We go through this a lot in our network when we have people who encounter problems and they're afraid to speak up, and then they talk to us and think, okay, actually I now have the courage, I can speak up and I can do something.
You're not alone. Yes.
You're not alone.
Thank you, Tracy, for that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, there's about 260 people in this room listening to this conversation. So also that shows me that that's also a community, right? Like, you all in this because you care about the future of academia and you want to have learn from each other.
We're slowly coming to the end of this welcome session, and we want to take a moment to ask the 260 people that are here in the room, if you look back on the 75 minutes we just spent with each other, and we could go on for much longer, but if you look back on those, and there's a question in the chat for all of you, what will you remember, right? The first thing that pops to your mind, what will you remember? Be so kind, put it in the chat and hit send. Can be whatever it is, whatever is in your mind. And while folks at home do that, I also want to encourage our 5 speakers to come up with like a final little, really one sentence, because to honor the time. And
that you have it ready when we will come back to you in a moment. So just a few things from the chat, you can all read it and see it there, but what gets highlighted a lot is like getting a mentor and standing up. You're not alone.
The secret advisory board, stay true to yourself, resilience, expand your network. You're not alone.
Don't try to beat the system, work with it, not against it.
Increase your visibility, be open and courageous.
Mentor and the various isms, authenticity.
Build connections. Everyone is struggling. Wow, fantastic. Just keep it coming. And while you do that, let's start off with Deniz. What is the one thing you want people to take away from this welcome session? If you can, in one sentence.
Don't afraid and be loud, be authentic of yourself, actually.
Thank you very much. Robert, what would you like to take people away?
I'm still thinking.
Hey, I'm still thinking is also a thing you can take away.
Make room for reflection.
Make room for reflection. Wonderful. Thank you, Robert. Tracy, what is your number one takeaway for the audience?
There is not one path to do things. So advocate for yourself and make your own decisions. Thank you.
Leo.
Confidently follow your path, and also in some ways, in some way we keep academy as the one only thing, right? But actually there is more jobs in industry than academy. We are only a small fraction, so somehow we tend to be biased and be taught that this is only one way, and that brings up unnecessarily high pressure to make it or make a career in this.
Thank you.
Broaden your view, yes.
And last but not least, Sabine.
I think there are already so many wonderful comments actually in the chat, but I would say stay true to yourself and don't be ashamed or don't be too shy to ask for help, because you're not alone, and try to or be brave enough to speak out loud if something is not okay, because there will be people who will be listening to you.
Fantastic.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you all for making the time to be here with us and the large audience. We've come to the end of the welcome session, and thank you, speakers, and thank you, audience, for sharing all your wisdom in the chat. Before we move on and tell you a few things about what comes next, Anne, maybe you'll do that or we'll capture it afterwards.
Sure, I can do that. Thanks so much for all your comments also, because you know a lot as well. And what I take away is basically, yes, there are structural hurdles and there's discrimination, you know, that is a fact. But really set yourself up for lucky coincidences that you have the power to do something about, right? Have ownership, have agency. Don't let others make you a victim or something like that, right? And, you know, and if it doesn't work out, you're such highly intelligent, great people, you will find a great career somewhere. Sometimes you have to sort of figure out where your niche is. That can be in academia, that can be beyond academia, but I'm not too concerned. I think, yeah, you have the best ahead of you for sure. What will happen now? There will be one more set of sessions, 2 sessions. In my session, we will talk about the Wissenschaftszeitvertragsgesetz, the German academic fixed-term contract. So if you want to know more about that from Tracy, but also from a legal expert, join us. And Birte, what will happen in your session?
We will have a session on glass ceilings in academia and what to do about them. We have 3 guests that are addressing and tackling those issues from different perspectives. And I hope we get a lot of hands-on tips and advices on how to recognize, but also deal with them, and maybe also, you know, empower, advocate, and become allies for people who are struggling with glass ceilings.
Thank you. So, and these sessions, they will start at 1/2 So all of you at home, you have a 12-minute break now. Take that break to maybe take a break from your screen, maybe get some fresh air, a drink of water, do whatever you need to do. And once these sessions are over, there's also going to be a closing and a wrap-up session today at 5:45, where we kind of highlight the key takeaways of Anne's and Birte's session.
Yes. All we have to say is thank you all again very, very much for your time and your experience and your insights, and for just being here and being part of this fantastic community. Make sure that you all make and contribute in your own way to the future of academia, and then it's just going to be amazing or something like that.
Of course, just like that. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All the best.